Boom. Here we are. Live with Eduardo Gonzalez. Did I pronounce your name correctly, sir?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad I did. Because I have a problem with names. And that's this is a weird world we live in. Because whenever you have a conversation with anyone, it's like, how do you pronounce? It usually starts with like, how do you pronounce your name? Because
Yeah.
everyone is from different places now. It's not just like, oh, everyone is from just that one spot. And internet uh, and everything sort of opened up a lot of possibilities to meet like really cool people from around the world.
And I think I
So
just did what mostly everybody says. It's like, yeah, that's close enough. Um, because it's not like I'm Mexican, right? So it's literally pronounced a little bit more, with more emphasis or something. But it's hard. It's a tongue twister, and I kind of give up sometimes.
Eduardo. Did I say it right now?
That's it.
Eduardo.
There you
There
go.
you go. Awesome. Awesome. There you go. Cool. So yeah, Eduardo is you are the
Like,
visual
yeah, that's close
develop
enough.
you're the visual development director over at Riot Games, right?
Yeah, for the world building team.
Got it. Got it. And how long you've been there? Like that is the question that we should start with.
2000 mid 2010, I'm starting to like, yeah, it was just after they launched the game.
Wow. So seven years now? Around
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
holy crap. That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of time. When did exactly do you remember when they started the whole thing? Like was it, how close to the game release? I guess it was a couple of years, right, before they actually released.
Yeah, I think they had like a sweatshop, like literally four people or something. And then they got up and running, and I think they went into another studio in Culver City, and then they upgraded to a bigger studio, three-story building in Culver City, and that's the one that I joined them in. And then of course, then they went to the Yahoo Center.
Yeah.
That was the big expansion. We're like, holy shit, this is big time.
Yeah, how
But now
many
we're a little bit closer towards LA in Santa Monica.
yeah, how many people you guys had in Yahoo Center? I can't remember, but I remember some of the Naughty Dog guys were over there, checking out studio, and it was like when they came back, it was like it's kind of cramped, and, like kind of nasty. That's what I
Yeah.
heard.
So there were well, it's I yeah, I think at some point it get like the end cap started getting filled up. People started getting squished into corners, and we couldn't get enough space in the rest of the buildings. And so I think it got really uncomfortable for a while, for like a year. And then they opened up to other sections of the Yahoo Center, and then we spread out. But we just kept hiring, and it just never got better. We hired faster than we can grow. So
Well, yeah, I mean the game was growing incredibly fast. I mean from the moment it got released, I remember I was checking it out back in 2009 or 10. No,
yeah,
not 9, 10. What am I saying? 2011 or 12.
okay,
That's what I checked it out for the first time because I was like hearing like this new game, League of Legends. It's free, you can play it and it's fun. Um, and I was checking it out. I was like, what is this?
yeah,
It's like it's completely not my cup of tea, because like I come from like super realistic video game sort of heritage almost, right?
yeah,
My career started when the whole next gen movement was starting. You remember back in 2004, 2003, most of the games were made in like really small studios, like
yeah,
10, 20 people. 20 people was enough to make like a really good game. For
yeah.
instance, did you ever play Painkiller
No,
game? It was like a FPS, and it's about like a guy who dies in an accident with his wife or something like that, and he's trying to save her, and he goes to hell and start killing monsters. Super super stupid premise, but it was one of the most fun FPS. It was like very Quake like, And
Yeah.
the studio that made it, People Can Fly, I think when they were making that game, there were like 20 people,
Yeah.
maybe 15. Like one artist did like concepts and sketches and 3D and textures and some of the animations, that kind of stuff. Because it was just all like, light maps and very, very straightforward production. And then,
They're
the,
still a small studio when I went to visit them when they were working on Bulletstorm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They changed. I mean, they grew a little bit and then they scaled down. The Bulletstorm was a couple of years back. Now they're part of Epic Games.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Well,
actually.
I met up with them when Epic Games purchased them. It was Epic Games that sent me down there.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So yeah, it was exactly around the same transition.
Oh, so you've seen the studio there in Warsaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because I've joined when they were still in like the other part of the town,
Uh-huh.
and then they moved the studio, and shortly after I actually moved to Crytek, and it was still like the studio was small. I think they had like 20 people. I don't know if they ever expanded because they mostly, I mean, uh from what I believe, Bulletstorm they were doing together with Epic Games already in a way. I can't remember exactly how it went down. Was it? I mean, I can't remember. I don't know. But
Yeah.
they were always small, I think.
It was in Warsaw when I went there, and it was in almost like that, like it was like a mall kind of like building.
Yeah, 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 exactly. You
Yeah.
kind of like there was like malls and like little areas with like shops and stuff, and you
Shops
go up
in
the stairs and
shop.
there's a studio.
It was like so strange walking in or towards the front door, and then it was felt like I had to do a password or something like. And then when you opened it up, it felt like a beautiful studio. It's it's
Yeah, it was
it's,
pretty nice.
it's a surreal experience.
Anyways, I mean, the studio was small when I joined, and it was same with Crytek. Like when I joined Crytek, like right in 2000, beginning of 2005, that was
Yeah.
when they made Far Cry, and the Far Cry was still sort of like a small team. It was like 50 people. When I
Yep.
joined Crytek, it was like about 50, 60. When I left Crytek, it was like 400 or 500 people in the studio. I can't exactly remember. It was like it went from seeing all the faces and remembering all of them by name to
Yep.
I don't even know who is that person passing me by, that kind of deal. And I guess you went through the same thing, right?
Oh yeah, and I got to visit Crytek too. I'm chasing your career down. Every studio that you're in, I'm gonna go there.
All right,
Um, but
next.
yeah, I think Crytek was I think it was pretty huge when I got there. But we were yeah. It was a beautiful studio. It's like several pieces put together by bridges or something, right?
Yeah, I think they moved there after I actually after I left. That's when they
Yeah.
moved the studio. They moved it from dude so the original studio was in the house, like actual
Oh, okay.
house.
That is.
And then they purchased another house, and they had like two houses with like bedrooms and stuff that were actually converted to studio.
Yeah.
And that was in Bavaria, and the Bavarian studio was awesome. Like even though it was a house, it was like it was the city, maybe 5,000 people, a hill, a castle on top of a hill, like like just picturesque, postcard from Germany in Bavaria, right?
Yeah.
Super safe. You could leave your doors wide open. Nobody would go in there. Super safe city. They moved to Frankfurt, and they moved to this location called Casella, which
Yeah.
was right across chemical factory. And I remember, like, first week we were there or second week we were there, we get an email in an inbox saying, "Don't leave the building because they just had chemical spill, and they're like shutting down the whole street, and it's unsafe." I was like, "What the fuck? Where do I work in the chemical factory? What's going on?" Yeah, it was funny. It was fun times, I would say. I
Yeah.
mean, as memories, fun. Back then, I didn't particularly enjoy it, but but yeah, they
Yeah.
moved to city. I think it was like west side of the city center or something like that, or northwest. I can't remember exactly what that was, but yeah, I've heard it was pretty nice studio over there for sure. So you were chasing those studios like how? You were like on fucking conferences? What's going on there? I
No,
want to
no,
know.
I was working at Three Wave, a really awesome studio that we were that was kind of doing multiplayer games for most shooters. They're the guys that kind of like made or invented Capture the Flag. These old kind of like Source Engine guys, awesome designers. It's like one of the best teams, like most talented teams that I've worked with. And it was just like, I'm like, how did I get here? We were able to make so much shit so fast, so accurately. And we went to Crytek to try and port CryEngine into a console, which if you actually know the tech and the underbelly of that engine.
I do. I
Yeah.
do very
So,
well.
the destructible, just everything, the volumetric, like everything, LODs. They're trying to like say, how do you get everything and into a console? And we're just looking at it, and we're like the constellations, star constellations were accurate. Like what they changed, like weathers depending on like if it started raining, the textures got wet. Like the shader system was amazing. Like shit, we were breaking everything down. It just freaked us out, but these guys, all our engineers and our designers were just like, yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, crazy Russians, man. Crazy Russians.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like there was this one guy, was all the crazy Russians, and there was also this one. I think it was like a technical artist or something. Can't remember his name now, but I used to have a lot of conversation with him back in the day, and he was just like this fucking living calculator. He would just look at a photo and then do everything in the engine, like setting up a scene so it looked like a photo. So when you look at some of the early screenshots from Crisis, they look like photos, right?
Yes.
It's this guy's just like fucking pixel fucking every corner of the engine, like putting
Yes.
all the textures in the correct way, the camera and like all of the settings, and going back and forth with R&D, like I need this, I need that, I need it's just like almost like a DJ with the sliders, but like,
Oh, yeah.
and he kind of looked like Bill Gates a little bit,
Yeah.
so just super, super focused, geeky, like I want to fucking make this happen. I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit! And I've learned a lot working with him, and because he had like big brain, I would say, like
Yeah.
that guy was amazing when it came to that stuff. So he could, his name was Harold. I can't remember his last name. His first
Yeah.
name was Harold, and
Vaguely, I'm not gonna remember that. But I kind of it resembles some. Maybe I met him or not.
glasses, a little hunch over. Yeah, that guy was awesome. But yeah, he was just like a wizard, and I've learned a lot. But to the point what you're saying is just like all of that stuff that they created. The problem was it was always buggy. We had that meme in the studio because like we would try to build something in the engine, like some of the screenshots and whatnot, and something wouldn't work. So we would ask like, hey, it's not working. Like what the hell? Like we need to make it work for whatever, like setting up art for the level, or setting up like a beauty shot or whatever that was. And the answer almost always was, it works on my machine.
I have a memorable story, and hopefully we can get past it really quick if you care to hear it.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure. Go ahead.
I was witnessing all sorts of amazing tech, things that just like would blow your mind away with what they were doing with that engine. These guys were all super like proud of what they were displaying, but they all got together and they all had the right consensus on check out the chicken. And it was this chicken that was animated, and it was animated to the T, everything, the feathers, the way it was pecking, and they were telling us to look in the details. They say they perfected that chicken, and it's supposed to like act and run around, and I'm just like nobody's gonna pay attention to the chicken, but they put so much attention to that chicken. And I swear it was like maybe a half an hour to 45 minutes of talking about and showing the demo around what they did to that chicken. I was blown away out of everything they could have just spent a lot of time talking about. That's what they ended up showing off the most, which was awesome. I love that they have their priorities straight. It's like I just wanted
Man,
a
chicken
realistic chicken.
Dude, the chicken is the most important thing. You
Yeah,
know, the chicken is
it
the
is.
most important thing. But yeah, they did a couple of amazing games. I mean, the Far Cry franchise. A lot of people don't know it started at Crytek. You know, like the first Far Cry was at Crytek. Then they sold to Ubisoft. Ubisoft made a couple of their own versions of the game. But I still think that the first one was the best one because it was
Yeah.
just like it was this buffy like this buff white dude with the machine gun in the fucking jungle, and like everyone is like a fucking bodybuilder. It was pretty funny.
And the game was hardcore and unapologetic.
Yeah. It
These
was
guys
it was like a
figured
true
shit
game,
out.
right?
Yeah,
If
a
you
real
fail,
game
you
like
fucked.
doesn't help you win.
Yeah, if you fail, you fucked.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've enjoyed it. That was one of the reasons why I moved there because I was applying in a couple of studios. I got back for I've got phone calls from Streamline as well. Like there was this video production studio or like video cinematics production studio in Netherlands called Streamline. They wanted to hire me as well, but
Oh
I ended
yeah.
up but I ended up working with Crytek because like fuck. I mean, Crisis was an awesome game. We made it, but
Yeah.
Far Cry was amazing. I was like, damn, like I'll be working with those guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. I bet you they have awesome studios. So I went there. It's a fucking house.
Streamlight guys were fun. Like I met them several times, and those guys they did like pipelines, right? They helped you develop pipelines and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But man, these guys were smart. Like they really knew games inside and out, and they knew how to do it in an efficient way.
got
Um,
it.
but we mainly just partied with them.
Yeah. So you were working. What was the studio name? What you were working at when you were doing all the chasing my footsteps?
Yeah, it was Three Wave Studios in Vancouver, Canada. I was living there for 3.5 years,
Okay.
and we just did multiplayer. We did Turok, we did Army of Two, 40th Day, and Army of Two.
Damn, I
Um,
remember those games. I
yeah,
do.
I
Awesome.
yeah I was really proud of those games. I think for what we did, we pretty much did an entire level, start to finish, learn their pipeline, learn their style, learn everything, set up the design, made up the gameplay, got the game modes out, all in 1 month per level. And we would do like 7 of these. So in like 7 months, all of them would be done. And I have no idea how we ever did that.
Damn, that's efficient.
Oh, these guys were awesome. And then we started kind of coming up with all sorts of like, I think we did that's kind of where I got involved with Epic. They saw what we did with this tug of war kind of Epic multiplayer demo that we ended up showcasing. But we did it just for fun. Like that was the kind of team. Like we did an entire demo, playable demo with new assets, new locations, used their assets, of course. And we were trying to create what what the game would look like in before the second the second version came out,
Right.
if you remember that. So it's like we love the first one, and we're like, let's just not even try to recreate the first one. Let's try and predict what we would do if we were to do a sequel to that game. And then
Right.
we did a demo of that because we were doing everybody else's games. We wanted to see if we could make our own game, and we just did it in like a few months. It was ridiculously
That
fast,
is
and
hardcore. That is
yeah,
hardcore. Because like normally production cycle for games, like the shortest one I've seen for like a proper game, not just like the DLC or like even DLC these days take months and months.
yeah,
But normally like you have to expect about a year and a half unless it's like a rehash sport game, FIFA fucking
right,
2025 or whatever, right?
yeah,
Like just like, oh, let's just change a couple of textures, some names, and add some cool extra graphics, and
yeah.
and that's it. Which is easier than creating the whole fucking worlds and all of that stuff. But yeah, that's crazy. Couple of months, like 8 months, right? That's what you said. 8 months, a little
No,
longer
eight
than that.
months for like the multiplayer, like 7 maps, 7 multiplayer.
Damn.
But for the Turok thing, I mean not the Turok. What am I saying? Turok. Uh, um, Gears of War kind of like game mode. We ended up making the whole game and did this like our version of the sequel before the sequel came out. We did that in a couple of months, maybe 3, and it
Damn.
was our own design, and it was a tug of war. So it's like 3 levels, and
Yeah,
so you fight in one arena, and if you won in that arena, you ended up going to the middle arena. So it's like a tie now. If you won on that arena, then you have to beat them in their arena, and if you win all the way through, then you win. So it's kind of
got
like
it.
it going back and forth. It could go maybe forever until somebody won in the enemy's base. So,
Still 3 months,
so
man. It's a lot. It's a lot of work for like really short amount of time. That's
yeah.
crazy. That is really really crazy. Yeah, I mean compare that to League of Legends.
And the team was small. Really just we had no choice. We didn't
Yeah.
know better. We're just like, we have a month and there's nothing else. Like sometimes we're worried whether, like, if we didn't get the job done, will we get another job? So it's like, it almost felt like we were gonna the studio was gonna close down if we didn't get this one done.
So you guys were
Um,
independent, right? Like an independent studio, not like
yeah,
publisher owned. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
That's freaking difficult because I remember that was always an issue. At least when I was over at People Can Fly, that was an issue. It's like, we have to make something that's great. So there's a lot of pressure because otherwise we're not gonna get paid
yeah,
because you don't have money. Like it's just all coming out of the owner's pocket. So it's a really difficult thing to set up something that is independent. Like it's a little different when you're like owned by EA or any major studio that they just shove you money and like do it, and then they just put like some artificial deadlines like fuck we cannot polish this thing, and in most cases, I mean, for most of the time, now it's a little different, but back then, like, there was a lot of like crappy games coming out because they were just like, yeah, let's just do it in,
yeah.
fast, 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 cheap, 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 and people are like, oh, but I want to polish it, and make it cool. But it isn't the case. So,
Right.
dude, how did you end up working with Riot Games? How did you end up like, working there?
Oh God, it's a really interesting story. Um,
Let's go. I'm all ears right
I,
now.
so you play the game, right? Everybody that played the game back then, you look at it and you're like, fun game, needs help visually. And
Yeah,
so,
that was my reaction. I was like, all right.
yeah.
All right.
And so, even before I got there, it still needed some help. But for some reason, the characters were memorable. It made you come back. The game itself, once you got past that like difficult like ramp up stage, it actually is really good and engaging, and it makes you play with others. It almost forces you to play with others without actually forcing you to. So if you feel comfortable, and you get to learn beyond what your capabilities and your skill sets are. And the things that I hate is setting up items and building things in the backdrop. They made it fun and engaging. So like, I like the game, I guess.
Right.
But I said it still looks like, and Mundo and team back then were freaking geniuses because they found a way to create art that was memorable and that people fell in love with. So there was that the art team did to build such a big community around these champions. So it's not that they were missing; they were just going so fast that there was no time to polish or really hone in on what these champions might look like. So my thing was just like, shit, I want to help. So they reached out to me, and I said, sure, and I gave them my regular rate, and I don't think that went well. And they're like, no, can you do them for $100 each? And then I'm like, I'm gonna draw at night, and if I'm gonna spend some time just drawing characters just for fun, might as well be for $100. And they're not going to like, micromanage me or really focus on what needs to get done because they were going so fast. They're just like, just get us a character done. And so they would send like a paragraph, a really nice description. And then I would just spend sometimes 6 hours to 12 hours max when I really cared, like I really wanted to like impress, or I really loved that champion and I wanted to go
Mm-hmm.
further. Um, and so I started doing that for a while for like $100 a champion. I hope everybody at Riot it's doesn't matter for me saying that, but it
Well,
was
I'm pretty sure
a
they're happy now, so I don't think they mind.
I hope not. I don't think they will,
With the
but well,
position you're in right now, and the amount of work, the good work you're doing right now, it's they're like, yeah, all right, it's good, it's good,
exactly.
we're good. I don't think they're hurting money because you've spent, you know, you hashed something really quick. I
No,
don't I
no.
don't think they're hurting at all.
But I think it's charming that people think of Riot Games right now as this big giant company, but like only like 7 years ago, they couldn't afford to pay more than $100 a champion. I think that's awesome, and that shows, the dedication and the growth that studio that Riot Games has. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of like those early things, but you know, I did it only because I was gonna do characters. I was gonna draw at night anyways.
Right.
But I also wanted to add value, and I wanted to see if I can improve the look. Um, and so I started doing those on the side, and eventually, I was starting to get tested as an art director for Sony on Broodworks, this game that was in a Sony Santa Monica studio.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, okay, cool. They're like, yes, you can have the job. I got rid of all of my other clients except this small little studio wouldn't go away. 2 hours before we were actually going to start thinking and writing contracts or something like that. We were going to make it official in terms of like me joining. I'm like, no, this is like I'm already going to be an art director over here. And Mark Merrill had, the co-founder, he literally, sold ice to an Eskimo. He had an awesome pitch. And honestly, like he said some crazy, it sounded like bullshit. Like, yeah, we're gonna grow, we're gonna be this big company, and everything that he said was more like passionate, more about from the heart. He
Right.
he believed in the product. He promised me to a creative space, and so me being a romantic artist, I said, yeah, sure, I'll take a title cut and I don't know what else, and I'll go down there and help you guys out. And then I declined the job at Brewworks, and which was not the coolest thing in the world because they just said, yeah, we'll give you the job. And then that's the minute that I kind of said, no, I'm actually going to Riot Games now. And their answer was like, Riot who? And so
Well, I
that's how.
think you made the right choice. At the end of the day, I mean, in hindsight, it was a right choice, but it was a huge leap of faith, you know?
Yeah, my wife reminded me of that. Sony, Riot, what? Who are they?
Who the fuck is
Um,
Riot? You have
yeah,
Sony
art
here. Good
director,
job.
the
Rawr, rawr.
darkness. What's going on? And I'm
Yeah,
like, oh, I rather be somewhere where I'm happy, and I would have been happy on both sides. So to be honest,
sure.
but I was promised a ton of creative freedom, and that's something that you don't really get in the industry because everything's so top down that like 80% of all the artists that are working in other studios that are top down, they're not really in the creative process.
Yeah.
They can design, they can come up with really cool stuff, but to be able to like think up and really strain your capabilities in terms of like coming up with amazing things, I think they can, but they're not given the chances. So that's what I was being offered, and honestly, he kept his promise. I've never had to. I've never had to face my limits in my creativity. I actually reached them and I said, "Shit, I got to dig deeper," because
Right.
they're like, "We want more. That's not enough." We're like, "Shit, that's all we got. Hold on, I'll be back." It scared the shit out of me because sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, that's true. But at the end of the day, it's if you enjoy what you do, it's so much better for yourself. Even though the reward, the financial reward might not be necessarily the best one in the beginning, it's still much more rewarding to work on your own stuff, or on the stuff that you have actually a creative control over. You know, you're hitting the mark here, I think, because that's something I've started to realize. Um, Recently a lot. It's just like there's a lot of cool projects that I worked on, but I didn't have full creative control over them. And the worst feeling is that when you create an art that you're really happy with, like fuck, it looks awesome. You can feel that you've put a heart into it, and it
Yeah.
looks really cool, and you're really happy with the results. You might not necessarily be overwhelmed and blown away, like, oh my god, I'm the best shit ever. No, it's just like I've created something I'm pretty proud of. At
Yeah.
least at this point of time, maybe 5 years from now, I'm gonna think it's shit, and maybe it doesn't compare to other works. But but at least for my abilities, it's pretty
Yeah.
decent stuff, And when you have that, and then director comes back and say, completely missed the mark. Fuck.
Yes. Yes.
That
Because you're like,
hurts.
I
Hurts.
can do this. Yeah, it so hurts because you don't, it's very rare they give you the opportunity, and then if you let them down, I think you're harder on yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's always like, for whatever reason, I mean, I know it from experience that when you try something and it doesn't work out, then you're sort of like falling back into that mode of like being careful and really like pragmatic about what kind of work you're producing. You're not pushing it as far as you wish anymore. You're only making it so it's crafted directly towards that person, and it's like it's so difficult to hit the mark. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess that was one of the reasons why you've chosen Riot Games over Sony. Because like, we've been talking about the studio that we worked before on, and you know how the industry works, like how most of the studios in the video games industry works. Even though you're an art director, you're not having a final say in a lot of cases, because you're gonna have producers like,
Yeah.
I'm a big ass producer. I have a word, and it must be this and that. And it's like, fuck, like, why did you hire me as an art director?
Yeah.
It's like, but it is what it is. I mean, not every studio is like that, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And when you hear, it's funny the way you put it, like, sold an ice to an Eskimo.
Yeah.
It's good.
He was good, man. He was good. I hung up and I'm like, I can't. Why did I just say yes? How did he do that? I asked myself all
Charmed
those
you.
questions, and then I was like numb a little bit. And then when I realized I had to talk to my wife, that hit home, and I'm like, shit, that's not cool. I should have consulted her, but he did a spell on me. I don't know what it was. He tricked me.
Black
I blamed
magic.
everything on him.
Yeah, it was magic. It was dark.
Yeah, it had
Dark
nothing to do with me.
magic.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe he knew something that, I mean,
he knew.
yeah, he
He
must. He must. I mean, when you knowing it from like, I own my own studio right now, which is Learn Squared. I'm co-producing and co-founding it with Ash Thorpe
yeah,
and Andrew Horlick, and like, we know how things go before they hit the mark. We get genuinely excited about classes that we cannot talk about just yet, and we know, like, oh shit, it's gonna be awesome. It's not maybe that the grand scale of what Riot Games did, but like, even in the smaller scale, it's still like you can see what's cooking behind the doors, and like, just like you wish you could tell, but you can't, right? So maybe that's what it was, like the confidence that he had. And sometimes it is like this, entrepreneurship, that you believe in your goal so much that you're actually making it happen, because you're gonna put everything on the line to make it happen. Like what Elon Musk did with SpaceX. I mean,
yeah.
SpaceX was on the brink of bankruptcy so many times. Did you read his biography, by the way? There's like, Elon Musk biography is like really. I actually,
And
yeah, check it out. It's actually, I've listened it as an audiobook. On the way
yeah,
to work, or grocery and whatnot. It's like the best way to spend time. When you're like, gonna fucking do grocery and shit. Like, to just listen to some audiobook. It's
yeah. You're
26.
speaking to the choir, by the way.
A little
I love.
quiet. Ah, yeah, speaking to the choir. Sorry, I thought I'm speaking quiet. Yeah. So, yeah, it's 26 hours. So if you want to check it out, it's gonna be a long listen.
Yeah,
But it's worth it. Like, it's just like how much shit he put in the line, and he was like literally, I think, an hour away from just like, okay, we were wrapping up before it all went down the way he wanted.
yeah,
But he said on numerous occasions, he said, like, I rather run everything to the ground and live, under fucking table or something again, because that's what he did. He didn't have his own bed when he was in
yeah,
college. He was like living off like $2 or $1 a day when he was in college,
Yeah.
like eating ramen all the time or some shit, you know, the cheapest food, and just working. So it's like I already lived that life. I can live not, maybe for another dollar, but like really cheaply again, like if I need to. But this is what I want to do, and he made it. So it tells you about, you know, the prolific minds. And I think the guys, what are the names of the founders of? I know there's Brandon and what was the other guy?
Uh, Mark Merrill and Brandon Beck.
Yeah, there you go. Those guys,
Oh.
you can tell, like from listening to interviews with those guys, and you know, seeing how much passion they put into the studio, you can tell like, okay, those guys know what they're doing. Definitely do. So
I won't name any names, but I honestly think that other people have said, have had better speeches and have said more amazing things. But the difference between these guys is honestly, it's true. Like what they say is actually what they do. And yes, they're elegant and they're elegantly conveyed, and they have a way of speaking and all that. But honestly, it comes from the heart. They don't even have to practice this stuff; they live it.
yeah,
So that's the stuff that keeps me engaged, because they care. I care. I over care. I think sometimes to the point where like sometimes it's, you know, I make a lot of mistakes because I care so much. But
we all do. I mean,
yeah, you know, but like they do too, except they're really smart and strategic about it. And then you end up learning so much from them, but you kind of are addicted to that. Then you kind of want to keep learning and getting to that level where they say crazy things like, "Fucking, it's okay to fail. I don't care if," like he said, Mark said something that I just will take forward to my grave, and I loved it. He said, "It's okay to fail as many times as possible, a million times, as long as you don't repeat any
the same
failures."
mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and it was like one thing you can say that, and the other thing is like we lived it and he did it, and we
Yeah.
made so many mistakes, and he just like, cool, let's do it again. Cool, that's fine. And when he saw somebody make the same mistake twice, he really quickly focused on that and corrected that, and he was on it. And I think I really respect those guys, and you want to work hard for them. You want to succeed with them, and I think everybody. It's not that what they said is how they lived and how they worked and how they operated, that inspired you. And I'm not kissing ass, like I swear. It's rare that I talk about, you know, any CEO in this manner. So it's quite different than anything in any place.
Is Brendan online listening to us?
He just sent me a text. Thank you. No, no, I don't think they're listening to anything I say.
All right, now say this.
Yeah. So hold on.
No, but you know what? It reminds me. There's this awesome book. I can't remember the name of the book, but I remember the name of the author, and I've learned about the author of this from numerous speeches, including TED Talk. His name is Simon Sinek, and he wrote a book about leadership. I think it's called. I actually remember it's called "Leaders Eat Last."
No,
and,
yeah.
And it basically, you know, sort of like the tropes of a good leader that he's talking about in the book. I can see in the, you know, co-founders of Riot Games, especially hearing what you're saying. It's like it's okay to fail. Like everyone fails. There's no person in the world that never fails. You know, you can be goddamn superhero. You're gonna have your darkest moment, and now it's just a matter of like how you're gonna, you know, come back from that. You know,
Exactly.
It
Important.
reminds me. I don't know if you're a fan of UFC or MMA in general.
I watched it. I enjoy them, but I just don't have.
You know who
time.
Conor McGregor is, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so he had this, you know, he was like on top of the mountain, and then he fought Nate Diaz, and he got fucked. But his reaction to failure was surprising, because like you could think that guy has like such a big ego, you know, and he's just like a dick, right? But then he's like, you can see like, oh, he's actually humble, and he understands he lost, and he understands the premise of lost, you know. And look what he did after. Now he's fighting for $100 million with fucking Mayweather. For fuck's sake.
he's gonna get $100 million to hug him.
Just to stay, be in the ring. Yeah. Whatever they're gonna end up being. I mean, it's a win-win for him. no matter
Yeah.
what happens. Even if he gets knocked out, he's like, oh, it's boxing, like
Yeah.
whatever. I can go. He's probably not gonna come back. I don't think he's gonna come back to MMA. Like, why would he? I mean, maybe he has a competitive spirit that would would make it happen. But anyways, there's something really interesting and really cool you said about you fail and you can fail as many times as you want as long as you learn from your failures and you don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's so true. And the problem is, I think, with a lot of leaders and owners of the companies, and and you can see that it's just like right now, especially with social media and how transparent everything becomes. You can find out about anything. You can find out anything about anyone these days,
Yeah.
if you really want to. So you can see through the bullshit right away, and you can see like if someone is just fucking up and just like trying to put the face on top of it, like it doesn't fly with people anymore. It doesn't fly, and it's so much more encouraging to hear like, hey, it's okay, you fucked up, as long as you don't do it again, or you learn from it. And I'll
Yeah.
remember.
Just don't do it twice.
Yeah. So Simon Sinek was talking about this company. I can't remember. It was one of the car companies, I think, or something like that. And someone made like a huge mistake that cost like $80 million of revenue for the company. And they asked the CEO, like, what the fuck? Like, why you didn't fire that person?
Right. Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of, no, he just took a seminar that cost $80 million, but now he's just so much smarter,
That is awesome. So yeah, I love that kind of stuff because that person that made that mistake is probably going to be way more careful than the next guy you hire if you were to fire him.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Dude, so you took the leap of faith and
Yeah.
it worked out. So how was it? Like, when did you feel like that it actually was a right choice? Like, I know it was like artistically right choice in the beginning. Like I can understand that decision. Like, it's I'm gonna have free, I could be more free to create art, be better at art, and you really push that direction. Even though the job seems to be like, compared to the other stuff, like art director, right? Games, you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
there must have been a turning point somewhere in your career over at Riot Games where you realized like, holy shit, I think that was like a right roll of the dice. That was like a fucking $1 million ticket.
No, it was downhill from there, and it was all my doing. So I'll be brief, but when I first got in, they just released this champion Lux,
Mm-hmm.
and the release was probably one of their worst releases ever. And I looked at the release and I thought it was horrendous. It was the worst thing I've ever seen, and I'm like, what have I done? I just joined like one of the worst teams ever. What kind of studio did I just join? But as I found out and as I saw the entire community revolt, and even it was so bad that the community ended up fixing and painting over some of the champions and trying to rectify everything that Riot messed up on. So technically the community fixed all of Riot's mistakes. But when they did that, Riot employee and their reaction was, okay, cool. Let's grab that stuff. Let's bring it in house. Let's give them exactly what they were looking for. We messed up. And in 2 days, they shipped the right champion the right way. It was a huge improvement. And the entire community was absolutely happy and wowed to the amount of listening that Riot did. And so like it went really bad to where like, oh shit, what am I doing here? To like, oh shit, these guys are awesome. And so that's kind of how that happened. You find yourself at Riot, or I found myself at Riot early on in these huge, ugly roller coasters, like awesome highs where you're super proud, and then moments where, and the reason why I'm such an advocate about giving people freedom and stuff like that, because I was very top down. Like I didn't know that I was, but I was very top down as I started taking on leadership. And I was abrasive and I was hard. So I had to learn some hard lessons the hard way, and
Right.
the teams and everybody kind of just punished the shit out of me and taught me a good lesson. And that and
Hey,
and that
Eduardo,
that
your
from
champions suck. Fix it.
it was I had a lot of learning and a lot of growing up to do. So that's why it was not a rough, it was not a smooth start for me. It was a constant realignment, constant understanding of really what the culture was. Um, and once I got it, I totally like fell in love with it. And then I realized that I was working so hard to try and make something awesome, but it was working so hard because I wasn't being inclusive. I wasn't letting the team help me, and all that stuff. So there's a lot of things that happened early on where I'm proud of, but I wish I did that better. But now it seems like I've got, I'm in a rhythm, and I have a lot of momentum now, and
Right.
uh, and I have a lot of control over some of my decisions, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
it's a learning curve, isn't it? I mean, there's
yeah,
often this question like, if you could change something in, if you could turn back time and go back and give yourself an advice, what kind of advice would that be?
yeah,
And like the more you think about it, it's like none. Like if I give myself an advice, I'm not gonna fail. If I don't fail, I'm not gonna
exactly.
learn the lessons that I've learned.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. And it's a hard pill. Like for a lot of people, failing and just like doing things wrong just sucks. Like fuck, nobody likes to lose. Just go and chat when the losing team is playing on League of Legends. Like see what kind of cancer you can see there.
it's it's a hard pill to swallow. Is an understatement, because I think if they would have fired me, it would have been a lot easier. Because when you fail, and then they're like, yeah, you just did it once, just don't do it again,
Yeah.
and you have to sit there and you have to look at your team, and your entire team is just like, nope, we don't want you as a leader, and you're not doing a great job, and you have to be there. It's crazy, like
Fix
trying to
it.
come out of that hole and then getting their respect again. It doesn't happen overnight, and some of those relationships will probably never get better. I wish they did, but I think that at this point, very few people think that I'm anything like that, and like I was in the past. And I think I'm just reminding people right now, which I probably shouldn't. I'm not that person anymore, but yeah, like there's a lot of learning to do, but it's hard to stay there. It would have been so much easier to just like, cool, let's just quit and go and somewhere else, and I don't have to deal with this, because it was painful. It was a year of like, having to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can testify that's true because I already spoke to some artists behind the closed doors before I
Oh
even had that conversation, and they only
yeah.
said good things about you, even though they
Oh,
don't have to listen to you anymore.
well, that's good news. That's good news.
So it's all good. Yeah, it's like yeah, learning learning from mistakes is big. I remember I was at Crytek. One of the biggest change for me was being art director as well. Like being in
Yeah.
that position of like almost you feel like you're in a position of power, and then you just like if you're not doing it smart and you're not doing it right, you become a douchebag.
Yeah.
And like in hindsight, looking back, I was always like I had a really bad experience about being a art director. I hated it. It was a lot of meetings, a lot of this, a lot of that. But the biggest experience, the biggest learning lesson for me from all of that was I just realized like, man, I was a douchebag. I was a fucking dick by that, but
Yeah.
back then, I was thinking I'm the smartest, like my idea is the best. I wasn't willing to listen. So
Sounds
yeah,
very
it's
yeah.
yeah, you learn. So
Yeah, and
it's
did you witness the collabs at Trojan Horse last year?
no, I wasn't there. I'm gonna be this year. You're going to Trojan Horse this year as well, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna run the collabs again, and honestly, like a lot of the stuff that we do in the collabs is every lesson that I've ever learned, and how to empower your team, and not be the douchebag, art director or lead. That's essentially everything that I learned at Riot Games is and how I operate the teams that I'm leading. That's kind of like the collabs have been set up for that. So
Right.
it it it's something that, like, if anybody ever wants to see exactly what it feels like to be in a team that you are trusted and you are empowered, that'd be a good video to look at. Not, I'm not promoting any of those videos, but I do think that it's worth seeing because we just had this long conversation, but that's going to like put the icing on the cake and
Yeah.
the punctuation mark on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine to promote, dude. I mean, the Trojan Horse is one of the biggest right now, right? I mean, in terms of the experience, it's one of the most unique experience when it comes to. I mean, I'll probably witness it myself. Not probably, surely witness it myself very soon. So I'm curious. I'm like, what is this? Because like my buddy Ash, like he just went to Belgium to a talk. He went to France before. And I see all those talks. They all look similar. Like they all have a very similar structure. You have a speaker. You might have some QA. People come over. There's like beers and stuff like that going on. But generally, it's like it's that day kind of experience. Whereas seems to be more like you're almost like in a camp for like a boot camp
Yeah.
of whatever, like a boot camp of awesomeness.
And honestly, I think the only thing that we ask is that they create a pitch. It's almost like a PowerPoint of a product or a game or a video game or a movie or animation that they might want to make. These guys ended up actually making a playable game. Two of them did, and the other ones were so freaking amazing. Like they were beyond a pitch.
Yeah,
And honestly, I'm not exaggerating when I say it was 9 hours of work for most of the teams.
yeah,
And they made a workable game in Unreal. One team did it in Unreal. One was a browser game.
cool. Yeah, I mean, I want to talk with. I mean, I already talked with Andre, and they started sort of pitching what the experience is as well, what the THU experience is. But
Yeah.
I think they need like a publicist or something just to sell it better, because it
Yeah.
is like I mean, maybe when I what I should do. You know what we should do when we were there. We should do an episode live,
Yeah.
like Art Cafe live over there when we were over there. Just like
Done.
grab some people and have like a cool chat or something. We should do that. That'll be fun. I think that'd
Yeah.
be fun. Just to sell the experience. Like, oh, we're awesome. Everyone's awesome.
I have.
Wish you were here.
I'm not invested in any other way except for the fact that I love for more studios to operate in this manner.
Yeah, yeah. No, Riot Games is awesome. I mean, I've had a chance to work with Yuzu and Kang. Like, we've been talking about working with you a while back, but it just didn't align and ended up working on Ghost in the Shell.
Yep.
But yeah, like later I worked with Yuzun, and this the first thing you feel when you get on a campus. And by the way, there's a new campus, right? We're gonna talk about that in a second. Fairly new. It's a couple of years now, but new. And so the first thing you notice is like it is a different place. It's completely different to an average video game company. It almost feels like, I dare to say it, cultish. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
everyone is so obsessed about the game, like,
Yeah.
and obsessed. Not just like, I'm a fan. I like playing. No. Majority of the people that work there are obsessed about the game, which is very weird, but also like intriguing experience when you were there. It's just like, damn, like I get it. Like when if you play the game and you understand what the game is and you enjoyed it at least a little bit, because like if you hate the game, like, oh, it's not my genre, fuck it, like you're probably not gonna understand it, right? But if you played it and you enjoyed it, like, oh, it's pretty cool, then you see why the game is fun to play. It's because, oh, okay, all the people that work here, they're like putting their hearts into it, and it's not because like they're the best paid fucking people ever in existence of planet Earth. No, they're just like enjoying the experience and the ride of creating the whole experience for the community. You can feel that. Like the moment you enter, you can feel that. Apart from just seeing that Kim Jong-ji's mural, that is just like, what the fuck?
Oh, I can have 2 hours of talking about just sitting there drooling, watching him just come up with the stuff. Because honestly, until I saw him in real life, I thought that it was scripted and I thought there was a trick. I thought it was some kind of
Nope.
weird magician trick where they planned for months to make this happen, and then he just kind of started drawing.
Nope. That guy's a motherfucking wizard. That's
Yeah, yeah, we gotta check his DNA. Like I don't think he's from this planet.
no, yeah, he's. I mean, he's been doing, from what I gather, knowing about him, he's been doing it for a long time, and you can tell he's like 0 to 100. He's like 110% into that one thing. He's like a Vitaly Bulgarov of drawing. Or Vitaly
Yeah,
is maybe Kim Jong Ji's of 3D art.
yeah.
Like, or but you get the gist of or the idea behind it. Yeah, it's so for those who don't know, it's when you enter the campus. The campus is, by the way, I think it's is it Santa Monica or technically West LA? I can't remember.
It's technically a Los Angeles, just like I don't even, I think it's like
It's
a
Santa Monica area
block away.
generally. Yeah, it's and you can Google it if you want. It's on the I think Bundy, right? Bundy
Yeah,
Drive.
Bundy's an Olympic.
Bundy on the Olympic, yeah. So I remember when it was constructed, dude. I saw, because I used to live in Santa Monica. I moved down a little bit south now, to the South Bay. Um, but I remember driving there a lot and seeing this construction. I was like, damn, they're building some fucking huge offices, probably millions of studios. And then I learned, no, it's all of it for Riot Games. Like, what the fuck? What the you know what I mean? So when you enter the studio, it's like right before you even enter the main building, you have this mural of Kim Jong Ji's art. I think it's like, is it a printout or actual mural? I can't remember.
No, it's a printout of it. Yeah,
Right, but he made
'cause
like
he
a huge
did it.
piece that is basically projected on that piece of
Yeah,
fucking concrete or whatever,
yeah.
and it's
Concrete.
like, and you look at it, you can miss it if you don't pay attention. You can miss it, right? Because like it's a little bit on the side, and you just look over like, wait, what the fuck? So then you enter and you have this freaking big, warehouse like entrance with all the games, art and everything. It's just mind blowing. And then the studio, holy fuck! It's like, if you've seen documentary about Pixar, about the hidden rooms and shit like that, it's basically Pixar for video games. That was my first impression.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first impression, because it's just like, was it you, or no? It was Kenny, I think, who was giving me a tour. It was Kenny and Trevor. They were
Okay.
giving me a tour, and I think Kenny was like, hey, I'll show you something right here, and he's just like, steering me in like this weird fucking
Code
of the
closet.
building, side of the building. Is just like, oh, we're like fucking corridor, like nothing's going on here, and there's like this closet that you don't even pay attention to, and he just comes over like, oh, he's gonna take some fucking merchandise or some shit, I don't know, and he opens it like, come on in. What the fuck?
Yeah.
A hidden room with some freaking
It's a light.
yeah, it looks like straight out of Mad Men
Yeah.
set. It's like
Exactly. I like the way
perfectly
you describe.
crafted leather.
Yeah.
Like all of the shelves have like draftsmanship around them, like book that has a little bit dust on them. It all looks like a film set. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's pretty darn impressive, I would say. How shocking was when you guys first saw it? Did you see it being constructed, or was it like a big reveal like for all the other guys?
Everybody wanted to go over there and see because that's just human nature. And then I had the opportunity to see it before it was done because every section of the whole layout was designed around regions, the regions in Runeterra, and so we were world building. So we were helping color coordinate, put the right regions in groups, and so that people can navigate easily and not get lost. I guess that's how big
Right.
it is. So I got to see it in construction. I wish, and it's hard for me to like realize how important that was. I wish that I would have seen it with like with everybody else, because when people didn't know what the hell what just happened to them, when we saw them experiencing the place for the first time, everybody's just minds was blown away, and I was not in the same. It's kind of like if everybody's drunk and you're sober, you're like, I wish I was drunk, because they were like, holy shit, oh my god. I'm like, yeah, I've already seen this place, and it took me to another level, but a lower level, but I still enjoyed it once it was completely finished. I enjoyed it at a different level, but not theirs. It was unbelievable, and everybody, it was so awesome that I think everybody felt embarrassed, and it was weird. It was kind of weird feeling.
It's like, oh,
Well,
where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from for this? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. No, I mean, I remember talking to some of, like I said, some of the Naughty Dog guys were over at the Yahoo Center, and they saw like, oh, it's kind of shit show over there.
Yeah.
You know? It's like stinky and
Yeah.
looks like a shit show. And then I remember talking to Trevor, and he said like, man, like when we saw this, I love it here. It was just like geeking out. Like he wouldn't even express himself like how he's experiencing it for the first time was, because he was already talking about the presents. Like, I love it here. So yeah, it was you know, yeah, when you enter you're impressed. Like I gotta tell you, and the way you guys have it set up, it's really cool, because you have this big courtyard that is pretty much a meeting room. You can like walk around. You have like this walkway that you can see people walking circles and doing meetings while walking. It's weird. Your
Exercising,
own ramen.
walking.
You have like a genuine freaking game room where you can go and play the game, and there's like vending machines from Korea and the ramen. Did you guys ended up opening the ramen place? No.
No.
Okay, that's a bummer.
Fire hazard or something. We couldn't get the permits for that.
That would be so crazy, dude.
That
would be so crazy.
An open fire 24/7. I don't think it's something they want to do, but it would have been awesome.
No, it's epic. I gotta say it's epic. You know, if just an experience of seeing it, definitely worth a while. Even if you don't like the universe or the game or the studio by itself, you know, it's just like when you see it, like, holy shit, yeah, I get it. I get it. You know, so. Yeah, it's crazy. It's been 7 years, man. That's a lot of time. It's a big commitment, but you know it works out. So when was the moment for you when it turned out? You know, it turned from you just drawing to you being responsible for visual development. Because now it's like you're a big guy over there. You're like, I'm the shit. I'm the shit.
No, trust me. I that will not happen.
Just by title.
I don't want it to
let's assume by title you're a bigwig. Just title. Just admit it.
Okay, fine. Here's the thing. Like when the one time where I think everything changed is I think I was leading the efforts on and helping and leading the efforts on champions, every champion release, and that was. For me, I think that we had to keep it fresh and change and stuff like that. So there was a transitional period where we're like, hey, I don't know if I want to keep doing this over and over again. But I remember starting to think about the world a lot, and I know that Sean Carnes, back in the days when we were in Culver City studio, I know that I sat right next to him, and he was all into the world. It was just too early, and it wasn't the right time. But I remember just absorbing all that energy and all of that knowledge. And then Matt Graw was someone that we were outsourcing with. And then once he came in, and I think we always just kind of had an interest in that. But we just talked about it. And I remember that I drove every champion through a region, right? So we're creating who is by now a champion back then. And I told Josh Singh, do you know who? Everybody knows who Josh Singh is. I don't know if you know, but I
think I met him.
Yeah,
I might have met him.
He's an amazing artist, and he'll tell you exactly when you make a mistake. And so I said, can you make her a little bit more Piltoverish? And his face scared the shit out of me. He looks at me with this terror, this anger. And he says, what the fuck do you mean? What is Piltover? Seriously, man, tell me what that means. You keep saying it. And I just look at him and I'm like, oh my God, you're right. We keep
I
saying
know.
to make her look more Piltover, but there's no such thing as Piltover at the time.
Right.
So that was the day, that was the moment that I said, yeah, we got to start creating an IP, and we start creating a world, because that's going to really help us organize the champions, unite them, and make sense of them. And even at the end of the day, tell stories. And we knew this was a lot of people knew this, but how to do it, when to start it. I think it was me and Matt Graw that little got together, pitched the idea. You know, Adam really was a huge instrumental, like on helping to start it up. And then when we pitched it to Brandon, he's like, "When can you start? Like seriously, guys, now let's go." And so
That's awesome.
we ended up starting. I think that for me, that was when I was the most satisfied, because like, oh shit, like I get to be the like in a space where I get to create a world responsibly, not in like 6 months, not in like 9 months, but like really do it right.
Yeah.
Um, and so we kind of said, we don't know when it's going to get done. We're not going to ship anything, and we don't know how much it's going to cost. Just leave that all vague, but we're just going to keep going. Is that okay? And we need some of the best artists in the industry. Is that okay? Uh,
Give us a
and
lot of
so,
money. Give
yeah,
us a lot of people, and we don't promise anything. How does
yeah.
deal sound? Awesome. Let's do it.
You want me to tell you something that I think a lot of people don't know, is that we pitched it. I know that I certainly pitched it in that manner, because I was hoping they'd say no. Like you kind of get scared.
Get super
You're
cocky,
like,
like I gonna sell it so that they don't buy it, and they say yes. Like what the fuck? What just happened?
yeah, like, because I'm like, what if they say yes? You actually have to back it up now and do it.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was scary, because to me, I knew that it was important, and I knew that it was huge, and I knew that it was going to be an uphill battle, because for the next 2 years it was hell. Everybody, anything that we did, we were changing the game. We're not respecting the game. It's not in the same style. It's not in the same vein. It doesn't have the same humor. And we're not trying to duplicate the game. The game is amazing already on its own. We're trying to create Runeterra, and we're trying to create an organized world that we can build stories that can make you cry, that make you laugh, they can do all sorts of stuff, but be tied
yeah.
in some kind of like DNA, something that holds everything together. And so
Just to just to
that's
give people perspective, how many champions are were in the game by the time you were okay? Let's do something with it.
oh shoot,
Like I guess over 20, right? Easily over
yeah, yeah,
20.
yeah.
How
No,
many
I think
champ?
it launched with 40, and I think it was like 70 or something like that.
Okay, yeah. It's
These numbers are
even
not,
more. Yeah.
yeah.
I guess it's like almost how many champions are there right now? It's like
Um,
80, 90, 100.
no,
I can't even
140
remember.
or something. Like
Damn. All right, I'm
it's a
so off
lot.
the mark. Holy fuck.
And everybody I write on
140. What
that
the
I don't
fuck?
know this name, this number.
Damn. Damn.
It's a lot of champions, and honestly, what really is mind-boggling is the amount of skins that they have, and
Yeah.
how difficult. Like if you think about how difficult it is to create a theme, and then make for 100 and something 40 champions, let's just say that number, there's about like an average of like 5 to 6 skins, maybe more, for some of them a lot. And how do you stay creative and original in that space? And they seem to do a really good job. So sometimes the champion is the easy part, and really staying fresh and unique is hard with the skins. And
Yeah.
I think that's more mind-boggling, because if you count the skins, that's just crazy
Uh,
amount.
the reason I'm asking is because
Yeah,
like yeah, if 70 or 40, 60, whatever, over 40. Let's say over 50, okay?
yeah,
Like 50 champions, and those who don't never played, I mean, you should go and try it. It's free. You can play it for free.
yeah,
And it has like a champion rotation, right? So you can pretty much play all the champions if you play it long enough, and you don't have to pay a penny.
yeah,
But the one of the things that is you can see right away is that it for in layman's terms, it's like taking all of the characters from all of the cartoons from Cartoon Network and putting them in one place. And now let's figure out the world that kind of glues everything together. Like, what the fuck, dude? What
It
were you
was
thinking?
it was a stupid mistake to try and attempt it. It was hard. It was because we had to retroactively fix some of the decisions that were great decisions for a champion, but bad decisions for a cohesive world. And then we had to somehow finesse them so that we respect the player's point or perspective of what these champions were. Like there
Yeah.
was some kind of background to them. And if you change them, I think our players and our communities would be upset. So we not only had to adjust them, we had to also nod to who they were and finesse them to the point where when we changed them, our players were like, thank you, instead of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Um, and that was the fine line, and it could have gone sour any point. So it had to be accurate, and we had to really, really do it with a lot of care. And did not know how much um, danger I was in with with upsetting our players when we attempted it, but we were passionate about it. And we thought and I'm glad we did it, but
Yeah.
it was way harder than I ever thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
Getting people
because
aligned on
y-
one idea is it's difficult.
yeah, because I mean, the biggest challenge I see here, and I agree with you 100%, is in the world or in a game or a product like this where you already have a huge player base, you have a fan base that are dedicated to the game. They are sort of like connected to the universe, even though the universe doesn't exist. It's just a fucking like a cauldron of freaking cartoon characters. um, and you're trying to sort of like figure out, okay, let's make sense out of all of this, like why, like Kog'Maw, whatever the character is, and Yasuo, and then you have, I don't know, what will be like the two most opposite freaking characters, like Annie and, I don't know, Kog'Maw, for instance. Like, how do
I
you
think
even
I think
make those
Timo
two work in the
Darius.
same world?
Yeah.
Or Darius, right? Yeah, it's like every champion looks different. It has like completely different theme to it. It feels like if you take every single champion and made a game just around that champion as a main hero, that would be a completely different game,
Yeah.
basically. And that's where you guys started. That's because that
Yeah.
was like, we're just making cool shit to make the game to be really cool. We don't care about story. We don't care about
Right.
this because it's not really a game about stories. It's really
It
my
was the
my
right
my
at the time. Yeah.
it's sort of like Dota, right? Very similar, right?
Mm.
For me, it was like Dota, RTS, kind of feel,
Yep.
and um, and I was like, yeah, it's just like there's no story, no whatsoever. So how do you even tackle that? And that's a hard thing, just trying to figure out and not upset people, because when you have the game, the bread and butter of the game is the fans, right? It's the people that
Yeah.
play it.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I like about what you guys are doing, because it's really just like, it's not a lip service with like, oh, we're gonna make make this and make that, and we're gonna make you guys all happy, and then people play and it's like, what the fuck, what is this? It's you guys like seriously listen to feedback and make the game that fans want to play, and yet sort of like infuse your own ideas and your own vision of what it's supposed to be, without fans knowing that it's supposed to be that thing. It's very, it might be a sort of like a stretch to compare it to Apple, where Steve Jobs would create, you know repackage ideas, let's put it this way, because I don't think he created a lot of his own ideas, but he
I,
was a master of repackaging and setting up trends and making sure that taking some technologies that already existed and putting them together in the right package
yeah.
that set up trend, like iPads, right? Who
Yeah.
who would ever think iPad's going to be what it is right now?
Yeah. No.
It's fucking crazy. But do you remember when it came out first? Like, everyone was ridiculing it. Like, what is this bullshit?
Yeah.
Same was iPhone. Like, I remember it was Steve Ballmer, right? Having that epic freaking conference. He was laughing his ass off. Like, oh, iPhone's just fucking screen. Like, nobody cares about that. And it's only 4 hours of battery. Like, what? People never going to buy it. Bestseller. Fucking biggest like game changer in the phone industry, that pretty
Exactly.
much pretty much made Nokia die.
Yeah. And
One
it
of
was
the
a
biggest
culture change.
manufacturer. Yeah, it was culture
Way
changer too.
way we live and the way we operate, the way we shop. a billion things that we never did before. It's not the phone that did it. It's the software and the how you do that. And
Yeah.
then everybody else's phone caught up and got better. So it's not like they were there. There's, I think Android just is great, but there was a point where they sucked and there was no competition.
I'll tell you my take on Android, and I the devices are as a technical piece, they are great,
Yeah.
but they're like unpolished. It's like PCs and Macs, you know?
Yeah.
Like Macs, you're gonna overpay for a piece of hardware, um, and it's gonna work. It's
Yeah.
just gonna work. Whereas you buy PC, you're gonna have the fastest shit ever. As you can, blue screens everywhere. You know what I mean?
Uh,
Fucking one screws get loose. Like I just recently had to replace the CPU fan, the water cooling, because just the
yeah.
pump broke and the temperature went to like 150 Fahrenheit or something.
Oh
It's
shit.
just fucking what is the smell? You know, I'm glad I have the Xeon CPU, because otherwise I would say goodbye to my computer. But that's what you get when you get PC. You know, like you're gonna have a really fast computer and it's gonna work perfectly for professional work until it breaks, and it breaks a lot. So, but yeah, so the reason comparing is just like you guys are setting up your own trends, but still like do a good service to you're in the service business really. It's like it's more of a service than a video game business in my opinion, because you know the bread and butter of what you guys do is your players. It's the player
Yeah.
base. You're not really creating you know sequels, and obviously I cannot talk about what you guys are doing over there. I mean, we were not gonna touch that subject, I promise.
Right.
um, but looking at what you do and what's announced and what people talk about and what people recognize Riot for, you guys are Riot Games, League of Legends, right? And it doesn't matter if it's 5 years ago or 5 years from now. It's still gonna probably still gonna be a case, and nobody gonna be upset. You know, it's much like to a degree, um, Blizzard and Warcraft universe, right? Warcraft, Starcraft, and Diablo. Like they've created those three universes, and recently Overwatch, which was really successful. But
Yeah.
man, 30 years. How many years they've been in this industry? Like 20, 30, before they released 30 years almost, I think, before they released Overwatch, like the completely new thing.
Yeah.
Up until now, it's like pretty much three universes that have been doing forever. Nobody's upset. Everyone's happy, you know. Whereas most of the studios, like you have, they have like a slew of different games and different genres. They're always trying something new. Like, oh, okay, Naughty Dog is, you had Crash Bandicoot, then you have Jack and Daxter, now you have Uncharted and The Last of Us, and what's gonna be the next thing? You always have the next expectation that there's going to be a certain amount of sequels, and then they're going to create something new. It's going to be cool games, blah, blah, blah. It's a game company. Whereas
Yeah.
you guys, where's the new skin? Where's the new changes? The patch is coming. Like, I want to see how the champion's going to react, because I want to fucking fix my macro and get out of bronze or silver or whatever. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's one of those things that make it special. I mean, I might sound biased, and talking to you also, and knowing that you work for Riot, so it all might from the surface seem very biased, but I mean, objectively looking, this is the biggest game ever right now, right? I mean, outside of mobile games, some of the mobile games like um, Angry Birds, right, or anything like that. This is by far one of the biggest game ever. How many players you guys have? Over 100 million?
Yeah. The numbers are just astonishing. Like they're just amazing. We don't even know how that happened. Like I'm sure other people do, and more intelligent people than me know exactly how that happened. But you just kind of do your best. You kind of love your space, your craft, and then somehow everybody does their part, and next thing you see those numbers, and our players, it's it's amazing, like the reaction and the enormity of their passion for the game, and you just and of course you fear them in a level. You don't want to let them down, so
Yeah,
you
it's like
kind
a
of go
mob.
every day.
You
Yeah.
upset them, they're gonna burn your house.
No, it's because they care so much that it scares you to death to disappoint them. Like it, every time we've done that and we're like, shit, how do we miss? It does affect us, and we miss and we're like, yeah, we brush it off. Let's just make sure that we listen to them and everything like that. But I think deep down inside, the reaction is like, how do we fail them? And it does, and it is kind of a little bit more serious
Yeah.
for us, but it, but I think that is the bread and butter, and that is the root of our success. I don't know if the game itself could have done it, because I think the greatest thing that I think Riot Games ever created was a really amazing community, and a game that we kept evolving and evolving until it just got better and better. And
Yeah.
then every time there was something got old, or we did it too many times, there was always something new that we came up with that was different, and we kept it fresh for a very long time, and we're continually doing that. That's amazing, because honestly most players will ask for almost the same thing, and if you give them exactly what they want, they will be bored. It's our job to say and understand their needs and their wants and try and exceed them. Our job is not to give them what they want, it's
Yeah.
to give them something that they didn't even know they wanted.
Yeah, when you cave in to demands, that's when you fucked up, basically.
It's
It's
yeah,
like
because
it's
then yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's true. I've seen this happen in many cases. Where people just like, oh, we're upset, fucking do this, that, and then you do it, and they, nope, doesn't work, didn't
Yeah.
work, didn't work at all. Yeah, because like you just have to consider the fact that majority, even though you're gonna have like pro gamers, they know what they like because they've experienced the thing that they learned to like, right?
Yeah.
They didn't come up with the idea in the first place. That's why Steve Jobs was, one of those people that hate him, like him or hate him, he was revolutionary for the industry because he knew how knew how to set up trends and cultures.
Yeah.
That's a difficult thing to do, and you guys, I think, did it in a way. Someone said on the chat that you've turned League of Legends into esport game, which basically in essence made the game not a game but a culture. So
Yeah. And a
yeah, it's
sport like
true.
this. Yeah, and I forgot about that. That's the enormity of that's a whole different subject matter, and a long conversation. But just the fact that people see that as a true sport, and the level of competition and the
Yeah,
pros that play it, new level. I honestly, I could never predict it. I could have never seen this happen. I would have never thought, besides having a World Cup game fill up a stadium the way they did, like they
it does
actually.
fill up stadiums. Like if you fucking when you guys have like those LCS or whatever in LA, it's
Holy.
a shit show in downtown LA, dude. It's a real shit show.
But when we went to, and in Korea, that big giant like stadium, I honestly didn't know if we could fill it up. I was so
That's
wrong.
sold
I
out.
was wrong. It was just
I mean,
like
Korea and China, it's really big there, right? It's like what is the majority of the market? I think
yeah.
I would think so. Yeah, it's pretty big there. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, if you if you if you play it and you enjoy it, you'll quickly see, at least from a developer perspective, how smart the game is. Because every time you add new champion, you're making the game more difficult and more challenging. So even though you're not changing really much, it's like just little thing here, a little thing there. Just like small percentile changes that change the balance and the way you play it and make it fresh and fun and and interesting again, even though it's the same thing over and over. It's literally the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's playing the
Yeah.
same fucking map 24/7, right?
Well, we
But
call it. It's like playing basketball, right? It's the same court, but
exactly.
you're not playing the map. You're not playing the champions. You're playing the people behind them, and their
Exactly.
strategy, and they're always countering you and back and forth. Um, that's actually the thing that I love most about games. I really don't like the AI. I like playing the human on the other side of that. because you never know what to expect. And I think that's also like that secret weapon for this game is they give you so many options and abilities to evolve and change. So each player will play the same champion very differently and surprise the shit out of you sometimes.
Yeah, I was come back to the esport aspect and
Yeah.
the because I remember I used like when I heard like it's an esport and now it's officially recognized as League of Legends players are like recognized professional League of Legends players are recognized as athletes
Yeah.
in United States. I was like, what the fuck? What is this shit?
Yeah.
Athletes. I see a chubby guy fucking with the mouse hunched over. He barely can see through. I mean, not all of them. I'm just paraphrasing, but you get the gist of like surprise. But then when you
I
play
get
it,
it now. I felt the same way too at the beginning, but I get it. Like it's a skill. It's a mental skill, but it's a skill, and it's a skill that not anybody and everybody possesses. And
yeah,
some people could do it at an amazing level. Like they can reach certain levels that most of us can't. And that's why we like sports. That's why we see people doing amazing feats when they're playing soccer or basketball, football. Um, you respect that because you're like, how do they do it? You start seeing these, and then they're doing things that you're like, my brain doesn't think that way. I can't do eye-hand
doesn't
coordination at
compute.
level. Yeah,
You guys,
it's
you
amazing.
guys have like your own Messi in this universe. Faker, right? This Korean player.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've played a game a fair bit.
yeah,
Just to understand the world and also understand what the game is, and it's fun. For me, it's fun. I'm not a competitive player. I do like to get competitive in a way where it's like I try something and I go balls deep and then sort of like quit, um, because like obviously I have to be careful about my time, especially with the games. Um, but when you play it, you quickly, I mean, you realize like there's a scale of skill that you're required in order to progress really into like higher ranks, especially if you play competitively,
yeah.
the ranked games and whatnot. And there's this guy from Korea who's like fucking, I don't know how his brain works, but if you know enough about the game and then you see what he does in the game, it's like, what?
That's impossible.
What?
Yeah,
Like how? How?
yeah,
How? How is this even possible? Because when you play, you have only three buttons really to press, right? W, Q, and E. That's really what you press for most of the time. But then the timing and like how you combine it with everything else that is going on in the game. There's just so many macros and so many things going on. It's fucking insane. It is. It reminds me like it's a different realm when you look at martial arts, right? When you look at jujitsu, for instance, and when you start rolling on the mats, you quickly realize that being a black belt level, it is a fucking grind to get there, right? And there's so many levels, and the game is constantly changing. The people that got their black belts back in the days, like if you got your black belt in jiu-jitsu 5 years ago, 5 years ago you got your black belt in jiu-jitsu, right? And if you haven't experienced, or if you've been in the bubble of not trying new things, but just like, oh, I made it. None of the black belts do that, by the way, right? But
right.
because all of them are super competitive and want to learn all the time. But jiu-jitsu 5 years ago and now it's completely different thing. Now it's like the leg game, like the fucking leg locks and everything, just
Yeah,
getting your legs broken and murdered. It's so advanced right now that someone who was black belt 5 years ago and the same
yeah,
person that learned the new game now on the black belt level, it's a fucking night and day.
yeah.
And it's not, it's a different comparison, but that's just, you can feel the same amount of layers of difficulty. And even you feel like, oh, I'm a good player. No, you're like down on the bottom 20% of what the game offers.
You got a long way to go.
Yes, and maybe there's one or two people that are like over 95.
Yeah,
There's still some room for improvement. And by the way, any new patch, any new champion, any new changes that come to the game, that bar is constantly rising.
yeah,
So yeah, it's pretty impressive, and And I think that's what makes people really enjoy it and play it, because it's like there's not that many games out there that you play long time. Like most of the games you just like
Right.
start, play, and then abandon. Like how many games you actually played from start to finish? Like could you count how many games you've done that
I
way?
I won't name names because I don't want to like. There's buddies that have made some of those games. But honestly, in the last year, I could only bear to pass two, maybe I think three, all the way through full size games. A lot of casual games I'll
Right.
pass, but full size games, only about two I think I did in the last year, maybe three because I'm almost finished with one. But the rest I just like I play and you play. By the way, it's not that they're bad games. It's really engagement. The real engagement. The first level is amazing. You start getting everything, but then the second level and the third level, it's almost like the same
Yeah.
gameplay. And then you realize that if you do the same move throughout the entire game, you can pass the entire game with that sequence. And then like some games are just like you go through one section and then they all kind of start looking the same, feeling the same, and then the dialogue and everything like it just gets it's good, but it just keeps repeating. You start seeing the patterns, and that's what pulls me back out. They're just trying to they give you a great experience at the beginning, and then they repeat it over and over again to make it feel like it's a
Right.
bigger game. So I pull out real quick. So I don't
But you've
really
played hundreds of games by now, like you do play a lot of games,
play a
right?
lot of games,
Yeah,
but
I'm
I
not a
won't,
bit not
and I don't consider playing them because I have no time these days. So I'll
yeah.
play something and I'm like, if it's not catching me right off the bat, I gotta let go because I gotta play something else. And then keep looking for that one good game that I'm willing to put the only time I have left
And now
into.
how many of them you replayed at least once? That's what I mean. Like
Yeah,
probably
Metal
none.
Gear, Metal
Metal
Gear,
Gear. Okay. Metal
freaking
Gear is fine.
awesome.
For me it
Yeah,
was Last of Us because I want to try
Last
different
of Us, yeah,
difficulties. Yeah. Like the nightmare or whatever it's called. I can't remember. The
yeah,
top difficulty where you when you're crouching you don't see the sort of
yeah,
like this, silhouettes. It's so difficult and scary.
yeah,
Um but yeah, it's like you don't finish that many games anymore because it's just
yeah.
hard to get engaged, and it just shows like why some of the games are as good as they are and why they're so successful. Dude, we had a lot of good conversations here. I wish we touched upon more subjects, but I think we should start thinking about wrapping it up. There's a bunch of
Okay,
questions that I wanted to go through before we really wrap it, and I would love to have you back, and maybe during THU we should try it if you're down for it.
absolutely,
I'll
absolutely.
bring my
That sounds like
laptop and
a good idea.
microphones. We'll be good. We'll do it in person. It will be more fun, I think.
Uh,
Um, yeah, it's weird. Like one of the things I want to do in the future, and I don't know if it's gonna work out. It's just a matter of money and time, and
yep.
marrying both. Because I'm not gonna invite like people to my house. That's it's it's not a good idea with my kid running
Yeah,
around and like everything's going on. It's like you want to have a studio for that kind of stuff. But having a in-person conversation is different than having like Skype conversation. So that's something I want to try in the future. So maybe we're gonna try it over at THU. All right.
okay, yeah.
So first question. When I'm learning fundamentals, how and which exercises you give yourself, or what did you guys do when learned perspective and lighting? It's a very it's one of those questions about fundamentals and
Yeah.
foundation. I think I can answer it from the perspective of an artist. Would you want to answer it from the perspective of like art director? I think that would be a good approach. What do you think?
Absolutely, as long as you still keep me calling me an artist.
No, I mean, look, art directors are artists too, and you're an artist too. I've been sharing your work when we were talking. I was
Oh,
showing some
okay.
of your work. That's pretty dope, dude. It's pretty dope.
Thank you.
Um, of course you're an artist. Come on, man. Don't put me on the spot. What the
Well,
fuck?
okay, you know why I say that? Is because I start doubting it as an art director. Spend more time
You
trying to
do
make sure
though.
the
Like,
team is as healthy as
dude,
possible and they're making art that even their own team says, "Oh, I didn't know you could draw." So you gotta like you gotta have an edge there. Like, no, I'm an
yeah.
artist. I swear I am.
I swear it's true. I'll answer it quickly from perspective
Okay.
of of my perspective. Let's put it my perspective and your perspective.
All right.
Blah, 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 blah.
I
I
didn't mean
think
to
I
give you
think
a hard time.
the bad idea in my opinion is to do everything at once. And I learn it the more I live this life, and I've been last 10 years, 15 years I've been living a life of doing everything all the time, like all of the projects, everything. Just keeping myself really busy. And now I'm getting tired. Like I'm reaching that point, it's like, oh, I got to slow down. Because the more your life becomes busy with different things, the
Yeah.
less engaged you are in learning this one important thing, and the less lessons you take, and the more mistakes you're gonna make because you're not paying enough attention. There's definitely something that people have where it's just like some people have more or less ability to pay attention to one or more things, right? Some people can only pay attention to one thing and one thing only. There are people that are genetically predisposed to be more aware of different things all at once and be able to sort of like soak everything all at once. Not everything, but more things, like a span of how much you can learn at once. There's not there's the myth of multitasking is bullshit that
Yeah.
never works. It's been disproved. So if you're working on something and if you want to focus on perspective, focus only on that. So you still can paint, right? But maybe try to challenge yourself with choosing different perspectives, like for your paintings, and like really difficult things. Um, it's the easiest thing you can do is set up everything in 3D and boom, you're done, right? I remember when I was creating my class for Learn Squared Intro to Environment Painting, and I do talk about perspective in the lessons there. Dude, I had to go through the fucking perspective myself before I recorded that because I was like, fuck, I cannot draw in perspective anymore because I
Yeah.
use 3D and photos. Like I understand perspective, but drawing in is like it's a completely different beast. And you started to open up and realize like, oh damn, there's so many places that I'm still missing out on. Um, so it's a really good idea to focus on something and go for it, and go and paint the painting. Like do the lighting, do the characters, do whatever you like. But the idea for that painting or a series of paintings, if you want to learn perspective, is try sketching it out so that it's perspective driven, not like realistic lighting or texture, all of that stuff. Don't care about that. Care about like how you can set up like really cool, and compositions are important here too, because compositions do work with perspective almost entirely. So it's one thing to draw in perspective really well, but then also compose at the same time. So pick one thing and like really drill it. It's like doing drills when you go to um, when you learn sports, whether it's basketball, jiu-jitsu, boxing, whatever. The main thing is drills. You drill.
Yeah.
You do the same exercise over and over and over and over again until you're like really good. But then if you stop doing it, it sort of like fades away. You're
Yeah.
gonna some of the knowledge is gonna keep there, some of the muscle memory is gonna stay there, but it fades away. It's like when you try 3D and then after a couple of years you come back to drawing, you feel like absolute garbage.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. So, what do you think about from your perspective?
I think I totally agree with everything you say, and I think you nailed it in the head with just repetition. Um, there's two things that I would do. First, I would make sure that um, I seek the knowledge. So there's like for perspective, there's all sorts of really small perspective books that have little exercises, and you want to master the analytics of it. Like be very formulaic when you just understand it, and
Yeah.
then and drill that into your head, because if you don't know exactly what's going on and you don't truly understand it, you're probably always going to be floating in clouds and not really knowing which way is up and down, and then you focus right after that on becoming loose and not using those tools and not using measurements and just freehanding everything. So like to become an artist, you have to know the rules and then break them. That's the old, like everybody says that. But I think do that a ton and repetition. As
Yeah.
soon as you I swear you'll get it, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen when you want it to happen. You're just going to walk in one day, you're going to start drawing and you don't realize that you just did it.
Yeah.
That it sneaks up on you, but it's because you've done it so many times. But I've seen a lot of people do repetition and get a bad habit. I do believe that there's a lot of knowledge behind and a lot of like strategy behind every decision you make in art. Um, and June on reminds me of that stuff every day. He actually builds right from those old. He still uses the fundamentals, and then he creates these amazing
Yeah.
images. And so he reminds everybody that like you can still use them at even at his level. So I still constantly do it whenever my students, when I was teaching a lot, all my students, I really went through those two steps, and they kind of worked pretty well. Is learn the rules, learn how to break the rules, learn to be expressive, and then be yourself, and it'll happen. But most people just quit before it starts to happen, and then they realize why can't it be me, and it just
Yeah.
means you didn't try hard enough, or you didn't stick to it long enough.
Yeah, you touched upon this interesting subject that I want to talk about, but not on this podcast, not now, but the topic of passion,
Yeah.
and finding the passion and like quitting before you even get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
That's a really cool topic. Someone else asked why Yasuo is so overpowered.
We're always like, you know what, it's designer questions. As long as my champion is OP, I don't care. No, uh, I honestly like it's just amazing that everybody doesn't get pissed about every champion. About I don't know how they organize these champions, how they balance the gameplay. It is absolutely balanced, considering anything and everything could go wrong every time you introduce one champion. And also, if somebody finds an exploitation, they find ways to like correct that and keep the game balanced. And overall, it's been balanced. Sometimes some things stay OP for longer than they should, but I think they always have like a priority list, and they're trying to make sure that everybody gets
Yeah.
um, a fair game. But that's my answer in a very lame way. That I'm not a designer.
I think it
They're
was a troll question, by the way.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. That shouldn't be answered. Yeah,
But
I right.
for those who that's a like good elaboration. I mean, considering how many champions you have, how many mechanics of the game there are, how many different levels of skill are involved, you cannot rely on you have to have like enough data to actually know, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it does make sense. And what if it's just a bug, because like there might be a bug that is just like making thing be underpowered or overpowered intentionally. I like how
Sometimes
people get
it's
upset
items
about it
and stuff
though.
like that. It could be anything, but it's hard. It's hard to balance it. But yeah, and if it was a troll, man, I'm so gullible. I'm gonna fall for him every
All
time.
good.
So
All good. I'm gonna skim through some of the questions because they're very similar with what I asked already. One of the interesting ones was one of the guys, Ahmed, said, "I'm really upset in my country where the concept art is just too small, and I'm not that big deal in concept art yet. I'm a graphic designer, but I'm more interested in concept art. Should I pay that attention and stop studying?" I guess it's
oh,
I guess it comes down to like if he should stop studying graphic design and maybe focus more on concept art. Let me see. There was other part of the question. Um, yeah, I think that's the gist of it. There's other part that is more like related to opportunities and freelance work, which I can answer at the end. But yeah, what do you think?
I think it's simple. If you quit, it's because never meant for you. Um,
But I think
because
he asks specifically because he's a graphic designer right now,
yeah,
and he's thinking about concept art, which
yeah.
is two different things, in my opinion.
Okay, so but he's
But
saying
he
that
wants
in
to be
his
concept
country,
artist.
there's not a lot of opportunities
Yeah,
for
pretty
concept art.
much.
And honestly, like if he loves concept art, but he's afraid to do it because the opportunities aren't there. I don't know. That might, and this is where a little bit of my harshness, maybe too direct, but like, um, we live in a very different world. We're all connected digitally. So I think if you are passionate, and I think you come up with extremely amazing work, you will be able to get work anywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
It
So
doesn't matter
just
anymore.
follow your passion, make sure you're one of the best, and you won't have to worry about, getting a job.
You got a lot of artists that you work with that are not in the country even, right? Over
Yeah.
at Riot Games. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much any studio I've worked with or know, they are open to working
Yeah.
with freelancers. And there's actually a lot of studios that consider working with freelancers more and more because it just makes it cheaper for the company. There's this company that is behind WordPress, the whole WordPress system of websites. You know what WordPress is, right?
Yes.
Um, so they just dissolved their studio. They just made it all online. They had a lot of I think they had so much staff working from home anyways
Hmm.
that they figured, you know what, let's just I mean, why do we pay the bills for a studio that, we don't really need because everyone
Right.
is sort of doing their job in the more relaxed way from home. Like there's no reason for us to be
So they dissolved the brick and mortar aspect of it.
yeah, the
Okay.
company is still there. It's still hiring all the people that they were hiring. It's just like they said hey, you want to work from home? You have an opportunity now. And I guess everyone said yes, and then they just well, we don't need a studio then. We can just all work over internet,
Yeah.
which is so cool because it is a it is a really good and a bad thing at the same time because on the one end it's more comfortable, but on the other end you have to feel more accountable for yourself when you
Yeah.
work from home because there's so many distractions again. If you can keep your distractions away and focus on the work, you'll be good. But being in the studio kind of focuses you more in a way to be sort of working because you're in a working environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like I come from Poland, and when I was learning about art, there was no like the industry was kind of there, but you had to know about it, and a lot of artists don't know that there's industry. If you feel passionate about it, again, it's like a passion topic. If you feel passionate about it, just research. Don't stop. Don't give up. If you give up, that means it's not for you.
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. You'll find something else that you'll be so passionate. It doesn't matter if you're gonna make money or not. You'll still make it. So,
Yeah.
let me see what else is there. I think there's one more. Maybe I'll ask. It's a question for me. I'll answer it later, or maybe on the other stream. I want to stop answering questions to me when I have guests. What do you do to find inspiration when if you find yourself staring at the blank canvas, not knowing where to start?
Um, I don't start at the canvas anymore. Um,
You
when you
started
start,
with the League of Legends. It was a fucking Looney Tunes.
yeah, you've learned some skills. No, I, I think it's a, I think it's a real problem because most of, and this goes a little bit of what I said before, is most concept artists aren't given the opportunity to be super creative. So I can understand why a lot of people look at something and get stifled and they're like, what do I do now? Blank piece of paper is just a symbol of you not exercising your creative abilities as much. Just like everything else, it's a muscle memory. You have to practice it. And so we've been doing and using that part of our brain um, relentlessly for like 5 years in on the world building team, and it's now come to the point where we have billions of options, and now we have to choose between them to see which one we visualize and get the best outcome. When you're looking at a blank page, you're not focusing on what you want to do. So here's some things that can help you to start getting yourself out of it. At least this is something that I do, and I suggest that to the team. But the team is they everybody has their own ways of doing that.
Yeah.
Um, but I call them like pillars, 3 to 4 things that you're trying to achieve. So like, hey, I want to create a cowboy. It has to be female. It has to be in a planet. Like once you start going into like, and it must be this. Then you get like the goals. That's what you're trying to achieve, and then you close your eyes and then you try to become this character. You sit there and you're like, okay, I'm a cowboy in a spacesuit, obviously, because I don't want to die because there's no oxygen here. Now
You still wear a
how much
hat?
gravity? What was that?
Do you still wear a hat?
I still wear a hat. Like those are so those are all cues, right? Like
It's a
those are all
fucking
cues.
important question. How are you gonna be a cowboy without a hat? But you're
Yeah.
in the space. How are you gonna,
If I'm in a spacesuit, how do you know I'm a cowboy, right?
exactly?
Like, so that's why you have
The
to
fuck,
write those
man?
colors because it has to communicate that, you know?
Yeah,
And so you sometimes say you're not going to have a rope and you're not going to have a hat. You're not going to have two guns on your side, but but this is what makes you a cowboy. And then you end up trying all sorts of stuff. Maybe you end up putting your phasers in a cowboy kind of position on the side. Like you just start nodding to it. You get to play and stretch the believability or the exaggeration of everything.
yeah.
But you don't start drawing. You start becoming it. You start experiencing it. You start smelling it. What does the area smell like? And honestly, it's as much as you get. There's probably some people laughing at me. It's like, you really do that? Um, and then all of a sudden, I have a ton of things to draw because I'm like, if somebody was to say, hey, how I'm having trouble like visualizing my living room. I was like, well, tell me what you see. It's easy to like start drawing when it's right in front of you. Well, if you start imagining it and you start walking through the place that you're trying to create or you're trying to come up with, all these cues are start to draw a picture for you. And so you don't have to start with a blank page. You can start with using your head and your imagination. And we're visual, and most artists can draw pictures in your head.
Yeah.
And so like I think that's why it's not a big deal for me anymore. But I always find ways to make sure that that's not an issue. I do apologize because I have been using that muscle for a long time. So it's it's easier for me. For the people that don't, just keep trying. Start easy, start simple, and start building up those creative muscles.
So I'm gonna elaborate that question from my end and ask you this. So it's one thing to draw, right? But
Yeah.
when you're coming up with the ideas for the visual development, right? So when you're developing, you already have a character, you already have sort of like this cues and everything that is already there in the world. Where do you find your ideas for how to develop the world so that all of the parts fit? Do you look at work? Do you look at films? Do you look at other stuff, or you just brainstorm and you think?
We think, we brainstorm, we bring in ideas, things that we've experienced. We have amazing creatives. So like we hire the right people, right? So we don't hire people that are really good at drawing or are really good at writing. We hire people that are creative. And what that means is, imagine my like everybody on the team is there to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
Some people express themselves through art and some people express themselves through writing, but we are all able to express and invent and create things that don't exist. And getting all those people in a room and brainstorming, it's just so much easier. And honestly, like the first 15, 20 ideas, at first they might have sound awesome, but by the time you get to the end, they're so lame because we've just evolved into a place that we never thought we could be.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier when you're in a room full of just amazing creatives.
Yeah, when you have that conversation going, it's like it just validates or invalidates your ideas completely.
Yeah.
You know, it's because like when you're alone with your own thoughts and you think this is the right thing, this is the right idea. Oftentimes it's just stupid. You know,
Yeah.
and if there's no one to tell you to find like to poke those holes, like, all right, you say a cowboy, but how the fuck he gonna wear a hat? You know, like all of those things, like very often times you just don't ask yourself those questions. You know, just like, oh, it's a fucking cowboy. It's this and that, and then when you get your hands dirty and get down to it, it's like, oh, something doesn't work here, and you don't really know what. You know,
You triggered the memory. So, people call bullshit on you, right? If you
yeah,
say,
yeah,
and so it got to the point where Mark Gibbons, who is an amazing artist, just amazing creator, he brought in the bullshit button,
yeah.
and it mainly I found myself talking, and it was probably you. I don't think it was intended for me, but it ended up being used on me the most. So I love that. So that triggered a
Is it
memory.
like a horn or something that
No,
he
no, it's
just
a
presses
button.
or?
Yeah, I think it's the Staples button or something like that.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
bullshit instead of like easy button.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay, got it, got it.
yeah, so it said bullshit. So like as soon as it was in the middle of the table, and as soon as most of the time it was me. As soon as I said something that didn't make sense, like what do you mean that just doesn't make sense? And then somebody would, but yeah,
That's actually funny.
I did end up hiding it. I think
How many times you got trolled though? Like
a lot.
meep meep meep. No, actually it's good. Meep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was disruptive, but I also love being in a meeting that we take things so seriously and we're all trying really hard to like come up with this solution, and then every once in a while we start laughing because that's actually we need that. Sometimes we need to loosen up and just have a good time.
Yeah. That is funny. That is truly funny. All right, dude. Let's wrap it up here. There's
Okay.
a bunch of other questions, but I don't want to hold you up anymore. I did sort of mismanaged time because we were supposed to start an hour earlier, and then I scheduled this thing for an hour later. So I already took enough of your time, and I'm super thankful for you being here, man. It was
No
really
problem.
really fun to talk to you. Let's do it again. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of questions there about passion, specifically passion related. There's some questions about minimizing distractions. I think I'll just do a separate maybe videos or something or different podcast about it. Or maybe when we're gonna be at THU, that might be an interesting topic to talk about specifically only about that. That would be cool. But yeah, anyone who's joined us live, thanks for tuning in and listening. It was awesome as always to have you here. And
You say that so well.
Eduardo, thank you for being here. Thanks for your time, man.
Say. Thank
Really,
you.
really pleasure to talk with you. All right, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Wrap it up here, and thanks again. Till the next time.